I'm coming, Giri.
Great things change things. Wherever
Dear all, we are going live on CII Hive now.
great things change things. Wherever we are, whatever we're doing. The information that empowers and connects us comes back to our global data centers. Built for a secure, sustainable, and digital world, they make the invisible visible and anything possible. And that's the great thing. Together, we do great things.
Chennai, known as the gateway to South India, is one of the major IT and data center hubs in the country. The Adani Group now plans to build world-class data center infrastructure in the city of Chennai. The Adani Chennai One Data Center is the biggest hyperscale data center in Chennai with a 32 megawatt IT load. It is strategically located in Sipcot IT Park with direct connectivity to the National Highway and other major IT hubs in Chennai. The data center is being built to meet global standards with 7 layers of security, best-in-class power usage effectiveness, redundant fiber connectivity and green energy. The Adani Chennai One shall be equipped to provide one-stop solution for all telecom and IT infrastructure needs of hyperscale customers, including low-latency network connectivity, high-performance computing and other value-added services. Through this data center, the Adani Group aspires to contribute to the local economy while continuing our work towards nation building at large and being steadfast on our philosophy of growth with goodness.
In the manufacturing of exceptionally high-quality electrical machines and power quality equipment. Today, as part of the multidisciplined global British engineering group Langley Holdings plc, Pillar is a world leader and innovator in a number of power protection technologies, specializing in UPS systems for mission-critical applications and frequency converters for aircraft ground power, amongst other uses. Pillar UPS systems are found in applications where continuous high-quality power is paramount, such as computer data centers, financial institutions, broadcasting, telecommunication networks, airports, healthcare facilities, and continuous process production sites. Nothing protects quite like Pillar.
It's amazing what humans have accomplished. Cars that think, machines that learn.
Sir, we can start the session.
Thank you, Shivraj. Good afternoon, gentlemen. It's my pleasure and privilege to welcome you all for this panel discussion on sustainability in data centers, a key driver for growth. We have five very qualified and distinguished presenters and participants for this program. Mr. S. Karthikeyan from the CII, my colleague, Mr. Rahul Dar, Country Director, Data Centers, Microsoft, Mr. Ashish Vikram Asthana, Deputy Director General, Data Centers and Districts Infrastructure Division, NIC, Mr. Palniyappan Muthuraman, Director Business Unit, Pillar Power Singapore Pte Limited, and Mr. Vimal Ka, Associate Vice President, Products and Services, Co-location NTT. Let me quickly go through the, very briefly introduce all the distinguished speakers and participants. Mr. Karthikeyan, my colleague, happens to be a principal counselor at CII Green Business Center, involved for more than 20 years on energy efficiency in variety of industries, including data centers. He was responsible for the first activity in CII in terms of developing a guideline and manual on data centers, going way back more than 10 years. He has been involved extensively in the Indian green building movement and also instrumental in developing a methodology for eco-labeling of products in India. Thank you. Welcome, Karthikeyan. We also have Mr. Ashish Vikram Asthana, Deputy Director General, Data Centers and Districts Infrastructure Division of National Informatics Center. Mr. Asthana brings over 30 years of rich industrial experience with NIC, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology in various domains. Extensive experience in establishing the digital infrastructure for the country, playing a key role in this activity. We are very happy to have Mr. Ashish Vikram Asthana.
Thank you.
Next, I have the privilege of welcoming Mr. Rahul Dar, Country Director, Data Centers, Microsoft. He's the Country Director, Data Center at Microsoft since April 2014. He's responsible for setting up of new large data centers for rolling out Azure cloud infrastructure in India. He has served at various other infrastructure companies related to IT and communications. He has also worked with the coal data center services, Vodafone, Idea, Airtel, and Tata Chemicals, and is known to be a pioneer in this industry. Thank you, Mr. Rahul Dar, for joining us today. Mr. Vimal Ka, Associate Vice President, Products and Services, Co-location NTT. NTT, as you know, is a giant in this area, and we have the privilege of two of their senior people joining at the inaugural session. Mr. Vimal Ka heads the data center services for NTT with more than 2 decades of industrial experience. He is responsible for effective data center capacity management, and his interest is in terms of providing high performance, high availability solutions in data center and disaster recovery projects. Welcome, Mr. Vimal Ka, for this discussion.
Thanks.
Lastly, we have Mr. Palniyappan Muthuraman from Pillar Power Singapore Private Limited, the Director of Business Unit at Pillar. Mr. Palniyappan Muthuraman is a Director at Pillar Power Singapore Private Limited. He has over 25 years of experience in power electronics, an electrical engineer with an MBA from Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology. Welcome, gentlemen. Welcome. It's a privilege to have all of you for this panel discussion. And the initial presentation by my colleague, Mr. Karthikeyan. I would request Karthikeyan to go ahead quickly with the presentation on the IGBC's initiative on data centers, and subsequent to his presentation, we will go ahead with the panel discussion. Over to you, Karthikeyan.
Thank you, Gary. Very good afternoon to all the participants. The very objective of this presentation is to talk about the initiatives taken by the Indian Green Building Council, and later joining with the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, the kind of activities we have taken for improving the performance of the data centers in India. Just to give a small introduction about the Indian Green Building Council, this is part of Confederation of Indian Industry. We have been promoting the green building concepts in India. We started with our own center, the Green Business Center, located in Hyderabad. This is the first green building in the country, platinum rated building. And today it has become a net zero energy building as well. So it is only about, say, 20,000 square feet. From here, we started our journey and started promoting the green building concepts. It has taken various shapes and size, a variety of buildings and built environment. They started adopting the green building concepts. Say it is a commercial building or residential building or infrastructure projects like airports, metros, railway stations, or government buildings. Even data centers we started focusing on a lot. So all these together, more than about some 6,500 buildings, they started adopting the green building concepts. In terms of the footprint, if you look at it, it is close to about 7.83 billion square feet, which is supposed to be one of the largest green building footprints in the world, probably top 3 in the world we can look at. So we have been working on the data center close to about more than 10 years now, right from the beginning, in terms of developing some of the baselines on PUEs for data centers, etc. What we have done is, with the support of all the industrial stakeholders, we have developed a tool, the Green Data Center Rating System. This is a very comprehensive tool. This tool helps the Indian data centers to achieve excellence in performance related to energy, water, the e-waste management, etc. So all these had led to making a data center a green data center. It addresses both IT load as well as non-IT load. Probably a unique system addressing both the things together. It is at par with the international standards. We have done a lot of research in this area, and then included standards which has been internationally practiced for evaluating the performance. The focus areas include, as I said, energy efficiency, the operations and maintenance, the indoor environment quality, e-waste management, and even water conservation, though the water consumption is very low in case of data centers. What are the benefits of going green with respect to data centers? There are very clear, tangible benefits. One, what we have been seeing right from the beginning is there is a significant improvement in the power usage effectiveness, the PUE value. Way back about 10 years before, we used to talk about the PUEs in the range of about say 2.2 to 2.5. Even some of the worst data centers we have seen at the PUE of close to about 2.83 also. So those PUEs, they started working on in terms of reducing it. It has come down significantly. Now we are talking about the best of the numbers in terms of even 1.2 or 1.25, like that. It has also contributed to increasing the reliability of the data center, which is very, very important from the data center point of view. And in some of the cases, even the water consumption reduction, which is a resource here. There are many intangible benefits associated with this green data center rating. There is an enhanced e-waste management, improved environment quality, more from the point of view of improving the reliability of the data center equipment. There is an excellent daylighting as well as the benchmarking of data center. When you start working on multiple data centers, together we start developing the benchmarking figures, and these benchmarking figures helps the data centers to set their own benchmarks and then improve upon, and ultimately a kind of green image for the data center. So the green image helps them in terms of attracting their business as well. These are some of the data centers which are going green. We have been working with all these data centers, close to about some 25 data centers we have been working on in terms of improving their performance, and these numbers are improving. Whatever you are seeing on the extreme left in terms of the green box, those are the data centers who have already achieved the rating system. The other data centers, they are in the initial various stages of implementation. Some of the data centers, we are still in discussion and then helping them in terms of implementing the sustainability measures. Coming to the IGBC and the LBNL joint initiative for improving energy efficiency, this is an initiative which has been taken up 3 years before, and then with the support of all the data centers in India. The main objective is to develop and implement policies and programs supporting, obviously, the greater energy efficiency in Indian data centers. There are multiple activities taken as part of this. The first one is basically to come out with the recommendations on the energy efficiency standards to include in the ECBC 2017. at least the minimum requirements need to be augmented. So the recommendations have been developed, and we are in discussion with the Bureau of Energy Efficiency for implementing this. The second one is the development of user guide. Today, you all might have seen the user guide was launched. I will also talk about what this user guide contains and how this is going to help the end users. Another activity is there are some data centers who have done extremely well in terms of the sustainability, the energy performance, etc. We have documented the unique features of these data centers, and some of the case studies I will also be talking about as part of my presentation. And finally, we also work with the data center fraternity for capacity building in terms of spreading the awareness on the green data centers, and also some capacity building at the operational and maintenance level. All these activities have been taken up. These activities we could do only with the support of all the stakeholders from the industry. In fact, we formed an advisory group members with the support of the data center experts. It was formed in the year 2018. And also we found technical committee to address the specific areas. For an example, the cooling, the chiller area, the electrical systems, the IT hardware and management area. So the specific task force have been formed. The industry leaders from industry, they started leading this task force. And these leaders also helped us in developing the recommendations for policy advocacy. These recommendations have been submitted to the central and the state government. These are the four specific task forces which are still working on various aspects of data center. For an example, room cooling has been led by Mr. Raghuveer Singh from Vertiv Energy Private Limited. And chiller plant and the related aspects have been led by Mr. PC Lohia from Reliance Industries Limited. The electrical systems, Mr. Pritham Goyal from Microsoft, of course, he is also available. He had helped us in coming out with the specific recommendations with respect to electrical systems. And from the IT hardware and system management point of view, we have Mr. Vivek Rajendran from Dell, who supported us and guided us in developing the guidebook. From the ECBC user guide point of view, as I already mentioned, the very purpose of the ECBC user guide is it comes out with cross-cutting requirements, especially from the energy conservation building code point of view. We have also come out with specific recommendations for improving the overall performance and achieving the higher levels of performance in data center. This guidebook also has the best practices that are implemented for achieving excellence in operation and maintenance. And ultimately, it also has got some information about the resources, which can be utilized by the end users for achieving the target efficiency levels. It has been developed keeping the data center owners, developers, designers, and operators in mind. And I'm sure this user guide will be helpful for the industry people to refer and then work on improving the performance of their data centers. Just to highlight some of the case studies which have been documented, of course, these were done by some of the large organizations for improving the performance of the data center. I'm looking at only two case studies as part of this presentation. One is from Infosys Bangalore. They have done excellent work on improving energy efficiency and innovative aspect. Some of the key highlights of the project, if you look at, the project has been designed for IT load of about 0.3 megawatt, designed to achieve a PUE of close to about 1.12. With a part load less than about 50%, they are able to achieve the PUE of about 1.37. Some of the measures that have been implemented include even increase in operating temperatures. The higher server hall temperatures they could maintain to the extent of about 27 degrees centigrade, so that the chiller operation could be minimized. Second, innovatively, the passive rear door heat exchangers also implemented for efficient cooling at the cabinet level. So with this, they are able to bring down their PUE close to about some 1.37. With obviously the part load. Apart from that, there are many energy efficiency measures implemented for improving the performance of the data center. For an example, ultra high efficient motors as per ECBC, super efficient motors, the variable frequency drives have been extensively implemented. And also the BMS systems, which have been implemented, which is in operation for monitoring and controlling. That has contributed for overall improvement in operating efficiency. All these features have been elaborated, and the case study is available online, and we can also share the case studies with you for your use. And similarly, we worked with NetApp Bangalore. There are many unique features have been implemented in this project. Here, the design load is about 4.26 megawatt. They have gone for the free outside air cooling technology. This is something very unique. It is designed for 20% of full free cooling as well as 78% partial free cooling. Whenever the atmospheric conditions are favorable, in the sense less than 24 degrees centigrade, as well as the humidity is less than about 70 to 75% there, then the atmospheric air has been used for cooling the system. And also the measures like stacking of air handling and the power distribution units to reduce IT losses. The PUE design is for about 1.3, and the operational level is close to about 1.42. These are some of the unique features here. What they have done is they have gone for independent chiller plant at a elevated temperature, operating at elevated temperature. Obviously, this has led to reduction in energy consumption. Four cooling mode for optimizing the energy use. Another unique aspect is the flywheel-based rotary UPS system for increased resource efficiency. So all these measures have been implemented by the NetApp Bangalore. These two case studies in an elaborate manner, it is available with us. So we will also be sharing with all the participants for their reference, and then probably you can look at how these kind of technologies could be implemented in future in your data centers. Friends, so this is how I would like to sum up. The green data centers is an excellent opportunity in terms of, number one, to improve the performance and also enhancing the operation and maintenance. And over a period of time, even developing benchmarking and then achieving a kind of green image and the recognition in the market. So IGBC will be certainly happy to work with you and facilitate the process. From the policy advocacy point of view, as I already mentioned, is a lot more need to be done in the Indian context. We have taken the recommendations. We have been talking to the government agencies. We have already submitted the recommendations to Bureau of Energy Efficiency. We are also talking to the individual states for coming out with specific policies on green data center. So for an example, in case of Telangana, we have submitted specific recommendations for encouraging and incentivizing the green data centers. So there are obviously a lot of opportunities from the green data centers point of view. So from IGBC, we would be happy to work with the data center industry and then support them in terms of implementing the green measures. So that's all from my side. Thank you for the opportunity. Over to you, Giri.
Thank you, Karthikeyan. That was a very comprehensive presentation on the activities of the IGBC and data centers. Now we move on to the panel discussions. Gentlemen, you are all experts in your own area. You have extensive experience, knowledge, and wisdom to share with all the delegates. The questions I pose to you is only a sort of a nudge to bring out the immense knowledge and wisdom each one of you have. So kindly feel free to add further to the questions which I bring to you. Let me start with you, Mr. Rahul Dhar. Mr. Rahul Dhar, as I said, has extensive experience in telecommunication and data centers for more than 20 years. And he's right now the country director of data centers at Microsoft. Mr. Dhar, technology and innovation is something which in every sector has facilitated in terms of bringing in newer levels of efficiency and improvement and sustainability. And of course, you have extensive experience in all the companies where you have worked in terms of implementing some of the latest technologies. What we understand right now, underwater data center is something which has been in the news for some time. And They say it contributes significantly to sustainability and efficiency. What are your views on underwater data center technology? And secondly, cloud is the in thing now. Cloud infrastructure is the order of the day. What is the impact of cloud on the way data centers are designed, built, and operated? How does it contribute to further improvement in sustainability? Underwater data center, cloud, sustainability. Your views, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, first of all, for inviting me to this prominent panel and a panel where we have experienced and very industry titans and prominent people available on the panel. Thank you for all inviting me to this panel. I would like to personally thank Mr. Shivraj Daga, Himanshu Prajapati from the CII team who are continuously engaged with the panelists to get their timings, to get their schedules lined up for this valuable forum. And a formal good afternoon and good evening to all the panelists and audience. So coming to the sustainability and the various technological innovations that companies like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and other cloud service providers are doing globally, I think as a matter of fact, any cloud service provider would want to innovate and would want to use their technical bent of mind to create something which is equally innovative and which can contribute to the reduction of the overall stress on the environment. So based on that, we had, Microsoft had done this underwater data center experiment. The results are of course being still studied upon, and how we can reduce the overall energy consumption, how we can reduce the overall removal of the heat from the IT devices at a most efficient level with a reduced PUE. So that is still being worked upon. But as a general overview, any cloud service provider, as I said, would be interested in high level of innovations. For example, utilization of custom design IT hardware, right? That is maximized to use their own applications, right? They do not typically go outside to the market and get what you call as off-the-shelf hardware, because that off-the-shelf IT hardware might not efficiently suit their application requirements. So what they have done, they are designing their own hardware and getting it custom or custom manufactured in some countries and then utilizing it. So those are the technological innovations that most of the cloud service providers are doing, apart from this underwater experiment or other kind of experiments. And coming to the next question on what is the impact of cloud on the overall sustainability? See, if we see, cloud is a concentrated effort on managing all the resources, be it space, power, utilization of water, compute and storage capacity. So this automatically means the cloud DCs are operating at a higher efficiency levels than any existing or isolated DC, right? So in a recent study, it has been observed that cloud DCs and services operate 98% more efficiently than that of a conventional on-premise data center. So you can imagine if a lot of technologies are brought together and are put in use in an orchestrated manner, that will definitely give highest amount of efficiency compared to a standalone data center or compared to a standalone cloud service. So that is my very brief view on these two questions, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Dar. Custom designed hardware and cloud DCs being more than 98% more efficient. Very succinctly put, sir. Thank you very much. Let me now turn our attention to Mr. Ashish Vikram Asthana. He's a scientist G and Deputy Director General at Data Centers and District Infrastructure Division of NIC. Thank you, Mr. Asthana. You have extensive experience in establishing data center infrastructure for the government. And please share with us, of course, whatever government does today, tomorrow or day after is done by everybody else. We would like to know from your experience how sustainability is being viewed from the perspective of data center by the government. What is it that the government has been doing in terms of furthering sustainability in data centers? We would like to hear from you, sir. Mr. Asthana. You are muted, sir. You are muted, Mr. Asthana. Shivaraj, can somebody unmute him?
Sir, let me try, sir.
Yeah. Just a second, Mr.
Is it okay now? Yeah.
Yeah. You are loud and clear. Thank you.
Fine. Thank you. A very good afternoon to all. Thank you for having me in this session today. Sustainability has gained a larger perspective over past several years when it comes to data center for us. Earlier a data center service providers, or our objective mainly was to ensure that the availability of service is there 24/7. And with the growth and adoption of digital services, the data that is generated by the social media today, it has actually propelled the need for higher capacity data centers, and which in turn has a sort of a direct impact on the cost, on the operational cost to run this data center. And hence it sort of forces us to focus on efficiency in a data center operation. And that becomes a very integral element of a data center, or the sustainability that you are asking, and especially the power and cooling infrastructure. The other element which I would think is very critical is now, because the equally important also is the environment that is around us. We all see the hazards of pollution, and therefore we must also focus on tools and techniques which do not impact our environment adversely. And the third element I would say is my own team, the workforce that we have in data center. And they need to be aligned and agile to this sustainability concept, or the techniques that we are thinking should be there in our data centers today, or we are actually wanting to implement them. So that is extremely important. And having these three aspects, the cost, the environment, and our team's awareness, I think for me is the sustainability which we must look at from the data centers perspective. And again, finally, this is a very short perspective about the sustainability, but if you go into, you can dwell more in details in the efficiency area, in the environment area, in the teams. And that is what I understand from the sustainability for data center.
Thank you, Mr. Asthana. You said you very beautifully put it. We were only looking at availability 24/7 earlier, but right now we are looking at availability at a higher efficiency and lower cost without damage to environment, and also increasing the capacity and skills of those who are involved with data center. I would come to you with some more questions on this. Let me turn my attention to the designer now, Mr. Vimal Kar. Of course, NTT has been involved extensively in data centers, not only in India, globally. As I say, design is the key to success. Data center design, I'm sure, is one of the important stage to consider high performance parameters to achieve whatever sustainability goals we are looking at. How do you look at sustainability at the design stage, number one? And secondly, there are times when we do a lot of good things at design, but many of them are given the go by during the operation. Design is one, operation is another. This is another aspect which you may like to elaborate. Thirdly, sir, you deal with a lot of customers, and customers have their own requirements. How do you align your sustainability goals in terms of design with your customers? Mr. Vimal Kar.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope I'm audible. Yeah. So thank you so much, IGC, BC, and CII, and Himanshu, Shivaraj, and all those who are listening live to the session. See, I was listening to the presentation earlier on, and I saw a lot of parameters being discussed with respect to rear door heat exchanger cooling, and raising the temperatures in the data centers, to achieve that green or sustainability goals you have. The problem right now with this, particularly with us, we are the co-location data center. We co-locate a lot of customers with a lot of mindsets. So when I am designing a co-location data center, I might be exposed to the best of the technologies available in the country or globally available today in this country as well. But I have to make a right mix of those technologies in order to get close to my sustainability goals or green goals for my data center. So one important factor is that, as Rahul said, that cloud brings 98% efficiencies in comparison to the on-prem data centers. And with these cloud players, with these hyperscaler players in the country, there's a lot of wisdom which has come to this country. And because of that, we are able to raise our temperature bars, which used to be between 7 to 12 degrees long back, in a supply and, and return temperatures. And today we are moving to 20 to 28. And I'm sure in future, they will allow us to go even higher. So that's one important design aspect. And that's one important thing. And everybody should follow this. Second is that, I might be caught here at the wrong foot, but even though water-cooled chillers can bring more efficiencies to the PUE, okay, but we should look at more efficient air-cooled chillers because looking at the water availability in India and also our own moral responsibility towards conserving water. Third, I will want to know that when you get into higher temperature return and chill water pipeline temperatures, then what it brings on the cold aisle is a very high, temperature and humidity range, which is in line with the ASHRAE guidelines for the both recommended as well as the level ranges. So which gives a lot of efficiency on the floor in terms of when you're designing your data centers. Again, I will also request that, there's a lot of thought process behind redundancies. Redundancies should be built as per business needs. Long back, we used to look at 2n+1 kind of redundancies. Now we are looking at n+1 kind of redundancy, distributed redundancies. So that's something important that, people and, the consumers, that they should know how much redundancy they want to build in the system. And that helps us in designing a more efficient data center for them. And, technology changes, it changes very fast. So we should be very careful in the selection of the components you're using. Be it transformer, DG, UPS, PDU, PAHU, every capacity component which is a part of data center should be chosen very closely with highest engineering thought process into it, that they are purpose built for the data center. And what is in which city, because temperatures are different in different cities in India. So you need to choose the right set of equipments there. And when you are constructing your data centers, you have to design your sources near to the load. For example, I remember long back when buildings used to be far and DG yards used to be far enough. Now you have to bring DG towards very close to your data center load, IT load, so that the losses are minimal. So these are like efficiencies which you can bring when you are designing your more, your efficient data centers at the beginning. The rest, I think everybody follows, whether it is LED, whether it is BMS lighting, controlling, everything is there. So there is some support which we need from the end user also in order to build a design efficient data center which can bring the best of the PE on the side. Now, the second question, I think probably you asked me what happens during operation. Now it's very interesting. They say, it's not what you build, it's what matters is how you operate it. It's very important. I can build the best of the data centers in the world with the best of the investments I make in the capacity components. How I'm operating is something very, very important. And, by saying that, continuous improvements are happening as we talk live, as we are talking right now in live DCs. So, very simple, we have adapted identity that no matter what happens, cold aisle containment, hot aisle containments is a must. Whether customer is aware, not educated, it doesn't matter. It's a rule that we should go for cold aisle and hot aisle containments. Leakages, very important. Leakages should be checked not only at the floor level, Okay, but also when the customer brings the rack, you have to educate the customer that you should bring sealing kits with the racks, because to avoid recirculation. These are very small things. I'm not sure how technical I have to be here, and whether I'm going to the very small issues, but these are very, very, very important issues, like which are important to run the data center efficiently, to obtain those PUE levels. Also, when the IT equipment comes inside the data center, it's one of the biggest source of harmonics, which it can produce. So they should use advanced harmonic filters at the IT equipment. You should promote these things at some council, or at some in some panels like these, that you should have to educate them there also. Plus, what we do is we do cooling audits. We do CFM audits. I don't know, everybody does CFD at the beginning. But what you have to maintain tomorrow is CFM. You have to go check what CFM have you designed it for, whether it is giving the right CFM or not. You have to check the chilled water flow management. Then you will understand that whether the right supply of water is going to the PAHU or not, in order to maintain the PUE at the data center. So all these efficiencies, and continuous thermal monitoring, audits and all have to be performed relentlessly in order to maintain your data center speed. That's it for me. I think I went a little longer than I should have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ka. I find it difficult to summarize whatever you said. You mentioned many things: design temperatures from 7 to 12 to 20 to 28, more efficient air-cooled chillers, more in the interest of the country because of our water shortage, redundancy from 2n+1 to n+1. High temperature and humidity range, selection of technologies for each equipment, close to the load, recirculation study, reduced leakages, cold aisle, hot aisle containment, use of harmonic filters. Even you went to the extent of focusing on cooling, CFM audits, thermal monitoring. Fantastic, Mr. Vimalka. I think we can make a paper on design and operation of data centers with whatever you mentioned. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now it's my privilege to request Mr. Painiyappan Muthuraman for his views. Thank you for joining us from Singapore. There are many times we look up to Singapore for many of the areas, particularly in terms of technology and some of the important innovations which have been taken up. I think extensive work has been done on data centers in Singapore. And from your point of view, what are your observations on the performance of data centers in India? What is it that is being done? Do you think they are sufficient, or do you think there are opportunities for doing more? Some views on how the Indian data centers are, and what do you think can be further done?
Thank you very much, CII and Venkat Giri, for inviting me in this panel with esteemed guests like Rahul and Vimal and Asthana to be joined together. As you rightly said, most of them in this region especially look at Singapore for technological advancements and also what are the key developments in this particular area. One important aspect today, we are talking about sustainability. So each and every nation has their own targets on how much carbon emission has to be reduced by 2030 or by 2040. So right from a nation's perspective, this particular sustainability target has now come down to these major operators or cloud providers and co-location data centers. So if you see here, as what Rahul also mentioned, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, they've all got into the sustainable target. So from a nation target, it has come to a corporate target, and also these co-location data centers like NTT, STT have started to get into the sustainable targets and achieving those targets towards the nation. So that's a great step towards the movement. So there's a lot of discussion about sustainability. Everybody is aware, the awareness has grown. So each and every data center has started to look at what they can do to contribute to the society for 10 years down the road. So a lot of discussions has been done. Most of them have not been practical, but I think a lot of research is going in this area. Singapore, being a pioneer in these research, currently there's a lot of discussion about floating data centers, floating data center park in Singapore. We're also talking about liquid hydrogen as a fuel supply to most of the data centers in Singapore. So these are the adaptations in a, I would say, in a surface level that is being discussed. So it would take a few more years to implement. But from the way that I have seen in the earlier presentation by Karthikeyan, a lot of effort has been taken by the Indian industry in the data center to achieve towards green building as well as energy efficiency in sustainability. So that awareness is the first thing, and targets to reach towards the target is the second. However, here we have most of them speakers before me. They were all data center players, Rahul, Vimal, and Astana. But we come from an equipment manufacturer. So our perspective is a bit different from the data center providers. So we look up to what the industry needs. We educate the industry in providing them tools, how they can be sustainable. So sustainability comes from various angles. Sustainability comes from providing a very compact solution. So that is first. The second, a cost-effective solution, a longer lifetime products, how long you can have a 25-year lifetime equipment. So this adds to the sustainability in reducing the utilization of components in the supply of a data center. Number 4, we also look at, I think Rahul, Vimal did mention about efficiencies and redundancies. It's the overall system component in looking at how redundant the systems is. Nowadays, people don't talk about 2n+1, as he rightly mentioned. People are going for more n+1 distributed redundant concept to reduce the number of components. But in the n+1 redundant component, as what Vimal mentioned, there are other technologies which can utilize very high efficiency of all the components put together in the system. He also mentioned another interesting concept where the data center is picking up. One of the key concepts here is the sizes of data center, which used to be 4, 5, 10 megawatt, are now, people are talking about 100, 140 megawatt. These are not surprises now to look at 140 megawatt or 180 megawatt data center. So as the size grows big, the smaller components that we have been utilizing are not more suitable anymore. So we got to go up to a higher ladder. So we got to go up, size up, the scalability of a bigger solutions are required to achieve the sustainable solutions. So that is the way that we as a component manufacturer enhanced ourselves in providing single modular 3.2 megawatt solutions for the data center in order to be capable and catering to larger data centers. And medium voltage solution is what Vimal also mentioned. So medium voltage solutions to reduce the loss. So principally, most of the data centers are operating on low voltage, but there's a huge advantage to go into the large data centers by medium voltage solutions, by reducing the number of components, reducing the maintenance requirement. Yeah, that's my take on this, Venkat.
Thank you, Mr. Palaniappan Muthuraman. Thank you very much. Mr. Rahul, there again, you spoke about cloud being highly efficient and customer designed hardware. What further new technologies are coming up, sir? Nowadays, about 10 years back or 15 years back when you started working with data centers, any new technology was not looked upon with so much amount of openness in India. Maybe the industry itself was in its nascent stage, and we were not very ready for trying out new technologies. Nowadays, industries are not shy of trying something new. What do you think are some of the innovative ideas which perhaps are on the bench and likely to be implemented tomorrow or day after? Number one. Number two, there was also some discussion in terms of location of data centers, identifying sites where data centers could be located. What kind of parameters you consider the most to address on location of data centers, more from the point of view of sustainability?
Yeah, thanks. So, as I already mentioned in my previous comment, innovations are coming in different sizes and shapes, right? So from designing their own hardware to testing data centers underwater, or using hydrogen fuel cells instead of conventional fuel like diesel or petrol or gasoline, right? So those are the various kinds of pilots or projects that are going around the globe in various cloud service providers premises or in their labs, right? So coming back to India, what has been achieved or what is being done? So India is a developing country. There are a lot of constraints on our resources, power, land, water, almost everything is constrained, right? So we are constantly relying on third-party co-location providers, for example, STT, NTT, and other innovative solution providers who are continuously designing and implementing the systems with adequate redundancy, plus the most highest efficiency. So Microsoft operates and owns and operates own data centers across the globe also. But in India, we currently are having a portfolio that is completely comprised of third-party data centers, which are leased out to STT and other co-location providers. So we are solely dependent on them. But yes, we are also trying to see how we can utilize greener power compared to the normal non-renewable power. So those talks are also in pipeline. Coming to the site selection question, the site selection is a very wide area of discussion in itself. As I said, a developing country like India already has a stressed resources. So hence selecting a site which eventually caters to organization and sustainability goals is paramount. Today, typical cloud service providers and colo providers do consider this fact and try to acquire sites which are closer to renewable energy sources or closer to the load itself, and those which do not put additional stress on utility providers, like, for example, water, conventional fuel. So those are the few parameters that have to be looked at while selecting a site. Of course, it is, as I said, it's a huge topic and which cannot be discussed here in this forum. It's a small forum, but we should also be cognizant of the fact that certain developed countries, for example, Netherlands, let's say Amsterdam, Dublin, in Ireland, and Singapore have either paused or completely stopped development of new data centers in certain localities because they are already exhausting the resources like power, water, and maybe they are creating pollution also. So this kind of benchmarking has to be taken into account by Indian colo providers also, or developers also, while trying to build something in a city like Mumbai or a concentrated area like Hyderabad, Chennai, etc. Because it should not happen that we keep on draining a particular city completely to its dead end. So those are certain various due diligence factors that must be taken into account to select a site in India, looking at the situation we have in India on the resources. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dar. I think close to renewable energy resources, like you mentioned about Amsterdam, Singapore, and some of the Dublin, other places where certain areas are not available for developing data centers because the amount of electricity available and this thing is much higher. I remember an aluminium plant was put up near to Bakranangal because there was huge amount of power available and there was a requirement for a major user to be located there. So an aluminium smelter which could consume about 150 megawatt was put. Maybe if data centers were available there, probably they might have put a data center close to that place. Thank you very much, Mr. Asthana. Improving energy efficiency is one of the key aspects of sustainability strategy because improving energy also leads to better bottom lines. You operate several data centers all over the country. Maybe some of your experiences in terms of improving energy efficiency in your existing data centers to achieve higher levels of PUE. We would like to hear from you, sir. Kindly unmute, sir. You're muted again. Sorry. Thank you.
Sorry. So, NIC has been for a very long time involved in setting up of digital infrastructure across the country for our government requirements at various levels. And post 2000, in the early 2000, we started with this first, I would say, the well-defined data center as such, the real in terms, the data center. And there also, we had to rely on a third party or the third party to provide us the power or the substation infrastructure. Whereas the inside of the data center was built by us. So, at that part of, in early 2000, we were aware, we were getting aware of the best practices in data center, and therefore we could do certain, as the other panelists were also mentioning, the containment. So in our first data center, we did a hot aisle containment, and that was the first step towards understanding why we need to do this, because you need to ensure the efficiency of the most power guzzler in the total data center, which is the cooling setup, right? So from that perspective, and then blanking panels, it's a very small thing. I think Vimal was also mentioning the same thing. I think most of the data centers at those times, and maybe today also, if you go around, they would have racks, with partially filled up and the airflow going all topsy-turvy. The cycle would not be the same what we intend to. And that is another, big area which needs to be plugged in. We were addressing these points at that point of time. And in fact, the structured cabling, the clear airflow movement across the, the fault floor and the whole cycle. These are the things that we were aware of, use of inert gas as a suppression system. They're all part of, having a proper sustainable infrastructure in place. But the challenge was that we were relying on a third-party substation. There was always a delta in terms of the service levels that I wanted to give out to my end customers, and whereas what I was getting out of the, the power infrastructure provider. And that also sort of triggered a need for us to have the next data center where we do our own substation. And we brought our substation close to the load, and that has become more efficient in many ways. And first of all, our team has now been aligned to end the data center operational requirements, and they're well aware of where to tweak, what to tweak, which season to tweak, and therefore you ensure a better efficiency out of your total integrated systems. And the other thing that during the somewhere around 2010-11 was the equipment at that point of time, the hardware equipment that was coming was not working on a higher temperature. They needed much lower operating temperatures. And now our data centers today are a mix of legacy hardware plus the new hardware. But and therefore the challenge is to how to work on a higher operating temperatures. And obviously these equipments have some life. So when we are actually replacing them, now we are making our data centers, the ones we did in 2010 and 5 and 2, they are becoming more efficient now, because now we started to increase our set points, and that is another area that has become very interesting. And the team, the most important thing is team is able to see that variable. If you start monitoring very closely your entire system, your BMS setup, your entire DCIM and everything, start monitoring it, and reporting has really improved now. So you can have a lot of permutation combination in terms of how you want to understand and view your data. So this also is helping us to tweak our equipments and get a better efficiency out of it. And the team is very agile to these things now. They're aware of what can be done. They have the data available on a click of a button, and they're able to do those changes. So that has really worked for us, and we are sort of improving day by day on these things. The other thing is now, fortunately, we have some opportunities coming up for doing greenfield projects. And that is one area where, I think environment now has become a very critical aspect for us. Apart from the, as other panelists were mentioning, design. So design, we all, I think all of us here and maybe the ones listening to us also, there are so many advisories and guidelines available, how you want to design, and what kind of uptimes you want, and you design according to that and all those things. Efficiency is something which is requires a lot of experience and a lot of data, and that is one area that is always going to we have to keep working on that area. Another thing is when I'm doing these green projects, the renewable energy, which everybody else is also talking about, this is something. So one is I use the natural resources. The other is I don't also damage the natural resources which are around my building. So both the aspects, we are looking into. Even the materials, that the environment-friendly material and which is reusable or a reusable, material that we could use in our buildings, plus also which is locally sourced, not something which is brought from somewhere else and which is more environment-friendly. So these are the aspects we are looking into our new upcoming projects, and which is very interesting to actually go through that process also. There's so much learning in these things. And I think I saw IGBC's various reports and everything where, in fact, they have also given a sizable percentage if you start using the solar energy. And we are very serious about it and using in our upcoming projects. The other thing is, though I'm not water harvesting, waste management are things that obviously are being planned as part of the total green setup. The batteries, generally we are using this lead acid batteries in most occasion. Lithium ion is something which has also come in. That is also an area that we are exploring to reduce, you save a lot of space, and the charging time, the discharging cycle, all these are benefits which are coming along with it. And obviously the waste management is an area which we definitely will have to look into. But lead acid batteries does have a more hazardous impact than the options that are available with us. So these are the areas that we're exploring. Plus also interesting to actually in the initial part of the session, there was a discussion on the Infosys project also, where the free cooling was discussed. And I'm sure Bangalore has a good period of seasonal, temperature, which we want. And so we have to also look, where the country is vast and with varied landscapes and temperatures. And so we are also, wherever we are coming up, we are sort of looking at the annual data and also understanding if free cooling could be a sizable, have a sizable impact on our total efficiency model. So that is also, we are exploring that, and we are working with our partners in terms of calculating all those data for us. And we hope to make the environment more, safe. And the data center industry is definitely going to grow manyfold, and therefore it becomes onus on our part, in fact, to adhere to these guidelines and standards and ensure that our footprint on the nature is minimal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Very beautifully articulated. The way we closed it, the industry is going to grow multifold, and therefore it puts an onus on us to make it sustainable by design. You spoke extensively about the efforts you have taken: hot air containment, airflow, cycle monitoring, structured cabling, own substations to improve your service levels, reusable materials in your buildings, use of renewable energy, reducing the impact on environment, bringing in data for more amount monitoring, and through that better efforts to improve your efficiency. Batteries being one of the sources of hazardous waste. Thank you. You touched every aspect of it extensively. Now it's my pleasure to ask Mr. Vimalka. You have a lot to share, I'm sure. IoT applications, artificial intelligence, machine learning, now anything and everything, right from automobiles to, I'm sure, data centers. These are some of the tools which are being used for newer designs and also optimizing performance. What are the tools, the innovative tools you would like to suggest to the Indian data center industry to help them improve their performance?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you, sir. So when you talk about IoT, when you talk about machine learning, when you talk about artificial intelligence, I think we have a long journey to go and reach there. Currently, it's very difficult for, as I've been telling you from the beginning, that when you are looking at a data center, there are various components working together: chillers, PAHUs, UPS, transformers, DGs. So all those parameters which are working, they are giving continuous data to the BMS. Okay, and those based on their workings and all, our team takes some decisions, while they're in operations. But there is a layer which has to sit on top of it. Okay, which takes these. For example, I'll give an example. That, for example, whether the pump of the speed of the pump is accurate or not, in order to run the data, in order to flow the correct GPM into the server hall, and at what temperature the chillers decided to start erratically and give different results. So all that, it cannot be done in a co-location environment, straight away. Okay, so if there's a need to shut down the equipments and then restart again, see what are the different readings those equipments are giving, it's not going to be easy for applying AI or machine learning straight away. The thousands of the data that sensor is giving to the software. You have to analyze that data, and that means that you have to sit on the top layer, the BMS on BMS. There has to be another layer which has to sit and analyze this data and prove efficient, give efficient knowledge to manufacturers or companies like us who are operating the data center. So as Muthuramanji was saying that he's the equipment manufacturer. Say for example, he's manufacturing chiller, and he's supplying chillers to us. Predictive analysis is right now currently what we are looking at right now, because it's very important to predict the nature of the equipment which is installed inside the data center. Today, these OEMs, they have to set up their own network operating centers in order to understand that what all has been, how is their product, performing inside a certain data center. But I still feel that our predictive analysis, which is happening right now on ground, for example, okay, I'll take a small example of video, CCTV. Put some analytics on it, put some software on it. You will, a guard cannot see the 250 cameras right in front of his eyes and understand what is going to happen. So some analysis, some intelligence has to be given there. And similarly, I will request, and I think that's a future. AI and machine learning is going to be the future of this industry. But for that, manufacturers also will have to come together in order to understand when the entire ecosystem works, chiller, DG, and so on. And when they work together, that's where you can get the best of the results from the machine learning or AI. You can see there are a lot of studies from Google Data Center. It's published on their website. How they have done it. And it's not a day's job. It takes years to analyze an event, and because you just cannot a human instinct cannot just just predict a result and tell you the solution. So IoT, MI, machine learning, and this AI is a future of this industry, but you need a lot of people and a lot of OEM support in coming forward and stitching the things together, at least for the co-location industry.
Thank you very much. There is a thing to be done, but it needs a lot of support and resources to go on. Mr. Palniyappan Muthuraman, we are almost at the end of our discussion. Perhaps I would like to ask you and ask all the panelists here. What do you think the Indian data center industry should do? Or what do you think CII should do? Maybe I would request the other panelists also to answer this question. One thing you would like to do for improving the data center efficiency in India, and one thing you would like CII to do. Let me start with Mr. Palniyappan Muthuraman first.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Venkat. I think setting targets, I think that is the prime importance. And then also awarding different data centers with some initiatives that they have taken will go a long way in recognizing people who have done some unique subjects into efficiency. So just on this subject, when Ashish was talking, he talked about renewable energy and integration of renewable energy into the buildings, right? So now there are a lot of devices, for example, the UPS device, which can integrate into a renewable energy by supplying and demand supply management, which is done by UPS itself. So the functionality of UPS is increased over and above the standard UPS solution. So such solutions are available for with integration of renewable energy like solar and wind power near to data centers. And also other flywheel solutions, which CII also presented earlier, are available for compact solutions, which is required probably by Ashish when he was talking about replacement of lead acid batteries, which can be explored. I think that information sharing, so we probably could help in getting more sustainable solutions to further to other reach to other data centers. That's what I think is required.
Thank you. Setting targets, awards, and information sharing. Thank you, sir. Very nicely put. Mr. Rahul, there. 1 minute. What do you think? What is it that you would like to do for? You would like the Indian data center industry to do? What do you want CII to do?
Yeah, thanks. As Vimal already said, we have a long way to go, especially for India. And I would suggest a three-pronged approach. One is the awareness part. A lot of people are still not aware. We are still climbing the ladder of this new technological domain in itself. So awareness is the first part, and then I would say experiment is the second part. We should not be afraid of experimenting. Right now, we are all dependent on other parties or outside of India, what is happening there. But India is a very diverse country where almost every city has a different weather, different climate, different humidity levels, right? So we need to experiment based on the city, based on the location we are based out of. So let us not be afraid of experimenting. And then final approach is to exactly implement it, right? We should implement whatever we have been successful with during our experimentation period. So three-pronged approach, very smart and simple as per my personal knowledge. Simple awareness, experimentation, and implementation. So that is what is needed for us. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Awareness, experimenting with pilot projects, and then implementation. Thank you. Asthana Saab. Muted again, sir.
Yes. So, I think the first thing is that data center is going to become a big industry in itself. It is already, and it is going to grow. In the next couple of years also, we may see the power demand to just double or even more. From that point of view, a special status for this industry, and also the special benefits, should be given with respect to, because it's a power hungry, whatever you may say, it's a power hungry setup. And also because of various techniques, as Vimal and everybody else was telling, the virtualization today, you are optimizing the resources very well, but you are not leaving as earlier times, the hardware was almost like 20-30% being utilized and the rest all just lying like that. So now it is being very optimally utilized. So you are concentrating a lot of things. So therefore, these efficient data centers should be given some benefits. And somebody who's going for a compliance or maybe following certain guidelines and ensuring some extra capital investment for doing certain things. So some kind of benefits should, I think, I'm part of the government, and I'll also request the government to sort of look into these areas, and these are must. I think this is must for us. And the other thing is forums like these. I think it's very important today what IGBC is holding today. also brings us across, some gentlemen who are here also and maybe around. So just to understand what the others are doing. And also, certain brainstorming sessions where, we can leverage on certain experiments already done by, such big players in the market. Microsoft is one. So you tend to learn from these things and maybe incorporate in your own setups and make things better for yourself. That's it. Thank you so much.
Mr. Kha, you have the last word.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. See, as Rahul said, that different cities have different things, and one thing I wanted to add there was that different cities have different rules also. So if you look at Mumbai, I don't know, this will be a case study. We are launching a data center in December 2021 on a 4-acre land. We have managed to accommodate 90 megawatt of load. So now if I go to the other city with the same thought process and implement the best practice there, probably the rules will not allow. One thing I request from these forums, and I know there are dignitaries, there are people from ministry, government, everybody is there from the industry, that government has to recognize us as an industry, and this should be beyond state boundaries. Because when something is going to get implemented, which is giving you efficiency, it should be replicated everywhere. And this is the support which we need from councils and panels like these and forums like these, to take it to the government. And if they are listening, it's very important for all of us to come, to make one guideline for the entire country and recognize as an industry. Help us reach there. We will try to do all the good work, which we can with our management, with our leaders who are backing us to invest in all the technologies which are possible. And as Rahul said, take risk. We are ready to take the risk. Help us, take that risk. That's all I wanted to say from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We have overshot the time by 5 minutes, but we had a very interesting discussion, and the points which you have suggested: setting targets, awards and information sharing, create more awareness, experiment with pilots, implement special status for data center industry, consider it recognize it as an industry and beyond state borders, so that we have common guidelines for the entire country, and forums like this for brainstorming and learning by sharing. Thank you, gentlemen. It has been a privilege listening to you. I'm sure the participants also would have benefited equally. And whatever suggestions you have made, we will take them forward in the way CI thinks appropriate. We will see how best some of your ideas could be put into practice. Thank you,
everybody, and pleasure meeting you.
Thank you for hosting us so well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thanks.